Good morning. Please welcome the 2008 National Woody Flowers Award winner from Ontario, Canada, Mr. Mark Bredner.
Good morning, everyone. What a great-looking group of people. I'm so honored to be here today to MC this fantastic event where we are honoring you, the mentors, the people that actually make all the FIRST programs happen. You guys are the glue that keeps everything together, that the kids look up to, and that makes the program happen. So thank you very much for taking time out of your day to be here, and we're thrilled to be here to recognize you today. You're the people that I admire the most, since you're inspiring the next generation of leaders, not only in the FIRST community, but in our world. The kids you're working with are going to be our leaders of tomorrow. And you should be very proud of all the hours and the countless days, hours, months that you put in helping our students, our FIRST students, be successful. I'd like to bring some very special people up on the stage with me here this morning. The first Woody Flowers National Award winner, first most experienced and wisest advisor, Dr. Woody Flowers. The 2003 Woody Flowers Award winner, Andy Baker. The 2007 Woody Flowers Award winner, Dan Green. The 2009 Woody Flowers Award winner, John Novak. And our newest minted Woody Flowers Award winner, Dr. Earl Seamy from Team 2614. I should say that all of the Woody Flowers Award winners would have liked to be here, but some of them are on the field mentoring their teams right now, which is why we're celebrating today, so they send their regrets. At this time, I would like to introduce you to, from Autodesk, the Vice President, Industries and Strategic Marketing, Brenda Disher.
Good morning. So it's really our pleasure to be here today to salute the most important part of the FIRST program, all of you, the mentors. You know, without the robots, without the kids, without all the energy here in the room, it wouldn't be possible to actually see the inspiration that's created by these all your fellow peers. If you didn't see kind of what's going on out there in the Coliseum, it's pretty amazing, and it's all because of the mentors. So I have a personal story about a mentor. So I graduated from a small high school in Michigan about 25 years ago, and went into college to be a math teacher. And my second year of college, I was taking a calc class, and I was in a computer lab working on actually a banking program with the computers that used to use the punch cards, for those of you that remember these days. And across the table from me, there was another kid, a freshman, who was drawing circles on the screen and coloring them in different colors and creating a CAD model. And I said, "What is that for?" And he goes, "Oh, it's the engineering program." And I'm like, "Really? How cool is that?" The next day, I went and met an advisor and learned about the engineering program. And the advisor said, "You know, it's a really tough program, not a lot of women, you know, it's going to be really tough." And I'm like, "Not a lot of women? Sounds like a good deal." So I got encouraged by my professor of my freshman CAD, my first year, sophomore year CAD professor, Dr. Gerald Grease, who is no longer with us, but he was a mentor through all 3 years of college for me. He got me to graduate with a mechanical engineering degree, helped me with my first internship, helped me actually in my professional career, and I actually was able to reciprocate the favor and allow him to come into the workplace, into a software company I worked at prior to Autodesk, and actually come in and get real-world experience to take back to some of his teaching. So the whole mentoring thing is about you being a mentor, you mentoring other mentors, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. So thank you very much. on behalf of all the engineers out there that wouldn't have been in the career they're in if it wasn't for folks like you. So thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. And now someone who you all know from Team 116, its longtime sponsor, supporter, and mentor, Mr. Dave Lavery.
Good morning. Let me ask one question really quick. Who here is in their first, second, or maybe third year of being a mentor? Okay, a good number of you. Congratulations, first off. I've just got really one set of remarks very quickly, just to direct in particular to some of the younger mentors that are early in the process. Actually, okay, I'll make it two. Number one, if you haven't figured it out yet, especially if you've become a mentor after being a student, one of the things that you realize that within FIRST, there is no exit strategy. So, yeah, you're in for life. And the first, second, and third year mentors will be back in your 10th, 11th, and 12th year. But in particular, I was asked to sort of think about one particular message that we'd like to give to some of the younger mentors, and what are some of the important lessons that are going to be ones that you want to latch onto. And the one that I want to mention is, as you go through this process of growing as a mentor, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. That it's those opportunities that really become the teaching moments that you're going to experience with your students. There's one young engineer who works for NASA, used to work out at NASA Ames Research Center, named Steve Karamarios, and some of you know him who have been around for a while. And the very, very first year that Steve was working with his team, they got their kit of parts that first year, they brought it back from kickoff, and they sort of turned it over on a table, and all this stuff fell out. And at the time, they only had 8 students on the team, and one of the students picked up a wheel and a steel bar that was an axle and a bearing, and none of those 3 things fit together. And the student just looked at these and really was sort of freaking out, because he said flat out, how do we make all these things go together? They don't fit, they're not the right sizes and stuff. And the students looked at Steve, and Steve looked back and said, I don't have a clue, but we'll figure it out. And all of a sudden, for all these kids who are in a school that was a continuation high school, and basically they were there because, in effect, they had sort of screwed up somewhere in their academic career and were being put in this school as sort of their last chance, and they were convinced that the world and their school didn't really have a whole lot of faith in them, and they were sort of looking for the reason that they were going to get kicked out of this thing. And the fact that they didn't know how to do something was probably going to be that reason. For them to hear the NASA engineers say, I don't know, but we can figure it out. All of a sudden, this switch took place in each of their minds to say, wait a minute, if the NASA guy doesn't know how to solve this, but he says we can figure it out, then maybe not knowing how to do something is okay, because that means I can learn something new. Not knowing how to do something when the problem starts is normal. And that switch, that enlightenment that happened at that moment, turned that entire team and their entire experience. And Steve was able to take a simple moment of, I don't know, and turn it into an amazing team. And if you haven't figured it out yet, that was the beginning of the Cheesy Poofs, Team 254, last year's winner. Those are the experiences that you're going to have. Don't be afraid to tell your students, I'm human, I don't know this stuff either, because it would be those moments as a human that you are able to take and teach your students. That's going to be the joy that you're going to be finding, not after just 1, 2, or 3, but still after 11, 12, 13 years of being a mentor. So enjoy the process.
Thanks very much, Dave. Now, I'm sure you know, but your students truly appreciate what you're doing. What we'd like to do now is read some snippets from some of the Woody Flowers Finalist Award submissions this year that the students have said very nice things about you. And I think it's important that you see some of these. So we're going to read them. I'm going to ask the Woody Flowers Award winners to join me and just read you a few of these quotes, really nice things that have been said about all the excellent work you do. I'll start by reading the first few. I think. I was born to be an engineer, and my first mentor uncovered it for me. The man goes above and beyond the call of duty. His passion for teaching our team is matched only by his kind and caring soul. He's a good man and the picture of a great first mentor. He coaches us in a patient way that creates a discovering experience for our team members. She is all about encouraging the team to communicate. She is incredibly dedicated.
He has changed not only the people he has interacted with, but the perception of robotics in the surrounding community as a whole. She promotes problem solving, teamwork, and communication, and gives us the freedom to express ideas. He's the definition of gracious professionalism, always the first to lend a hand to other teams in competitions or make our shop available for other teams during build season. What he has taught us about FIRST values and life will stay with us forever.
I have learned skills that I'll be using 20 years from now. I wouldn't have learned these life skills if my mentor wasn't willing to teach them. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He keeps going, going, and going. He taught me how to become a good problem solver and give 110% to everything. His genius mind often works in odd ways, but he's always able to explain things in terms students understand.
He's a jack of all trades, but the master of one, inspiring students. Relationships are way more important than building a robot. He encourages us to explore those crazy, out-of-the-box ideas so that new perspectives are allowed to emerge. She creates an environment where you feel like you are able to learn no matter what she is teaching.
He has the ability to see talent in everyone and, with an incredible amount of patience, help them to develop those talents into skills. He says he does it because we inspire him, but in fact, he inspires us. The lessons he teaches us impact our lives in more ways than in more places than the machine. The inspiration and creativity he leaves on his students always begins with the scribbles he leaves on whiteboards.
He has the ability to continually draw the best from a wide range of personalities. She never lets me give up. She always makes me believe that if I work hard, anything is possible. He loves to explain why things work. I know that guy. We've seen the gleam in his eyes while talking about FIRST students' many achievements.
Because of his encouragement and constant support, my future is brighter. He's like the surgical tubing on our 2011 robot's arm. He stretches and bends himself farther than any human would ever believe possible.
And that completes our messages. Thank you very much.
Read the rest of them. Oh, write them? Okay. He is a true mentor, and a constantly smiling face, and of course, a friend. When we're stuck, no sight in the world is more comforting than our mentor. Her uncanny ability to inspire confidence and shore up morale is even in the direst of circumstances, makes her the change that is so necessary in today's world. And finally, This mentor should have been a gardener because he grows great kids.
Fantastic quotes for everything that you guys do. Now I'd ask Dr. Flowers to come up and say a few words.
Good morning, folks. First thing I want to do is say thank you to Autodesk because I know, I've known Laura London, for example, for probably 20 years working with FIRST, and I know that they are doing this not as a marketing gimmick, but as a sincere thank you for what they've done. They've done it for the last 3 years. We hope this is the beginning of a long tradition, and it's really important that you guys get together because last night at the showcase dinner, it was so transparently clear that the mentorship that happens in FIRST is the thing that most distinguishes it from all the other programs that are out there. And I believe that mentorship is a more important part of what education is really about than any other single thing. Personally, when I was working with students, if I was, as Dave pointed out, able to say, I don't know, let's see if we can figure it out. Or in product design classes when students, in particular graduate students that had come in from another school and they were still in the mode of, lots of foreign graduate students in particular, the mode of, you got to find out what the professor wants and do that. And they would say, well, what do you want us to do? I don't know. You're going to do something that satisfies a customer. Well, who's the customer? I don't know. The game changes when you're working together as opposed to the teacher as a judge. The teacher as a coach, as a helper, makes a dramatic difference. So I think that's what this is all about. We're doing quotes this morning. I have a different set of quotes. You heard me yesterday morning reference Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. This is that book. This is my copy of that book. Maureen and Dean were reading it. Maureen mentioned to Margaret that it was a great book. So Margaret and I started it as our 4 a.m. book club book. And I fell in love with the book. I think it's a potential helper to mentoring because it's about the way we think and understanding how we're interacting and stuff. It's very hard to incorporate into your own behavior what's in the book, but there's some leads. The main part of the book is this argument about System 1 and System 2. System 1 being your subconscious, the thing that's running 95%. It's the thing that's making me do this, you know. I don't know where that came from. It's the thing that's making me want to try to make eye contact with a whole bunch. Running 1,000 miles an hour all the time. Kahneman makes the point that if you're walking with someone and you say, what's 2 plus 2? The person will respond with 4 without breaking stride. But if you say, you're walking with someone, you say, what's 17 times 28? They're likely to stop because you have to downshift into your System 2, which is your calculating mind. Being in a team, System 1s are screaming along all the time. Making a successful robot means successfully using System 2. And Kahneman does a great job of kind of laying out how some of that works. So when Margaret and I read together, we highlight things. Let me read some of the highlights that got our attention. And the first one I'll repeat from what I said yesterday morning. and I think we should hear it. This is the essence of intuitive heuristics. When faced with a difficult question, we often answer an easier one instead, usually without noticing the substitution. If you pay attention to that and watch it happen, it's really amazing how often it happens. It is the consistency of the information that matters for a good story. It is not completeness. He goes on to say, indeed, what you see is all there is. We don't know what we don't know. And if you can help young people start to uncover and appreciate what they don't know by acknowledging what you don't know, as Dave pointed out, I think everybody wins. This one is stunning to me. The tendency to revise history of one's beliefs in light of what actually happened produces a robust cognitive illusion. I think that's amazing. It is so true. And here's another one that we have in this country and a lot of the world, a bumper sticker mentality. Kahneman says, and by the way, these are not opinions. These are results of rather complex psychological experiments. Lots of data. The sense-making machinery of System 1 makes us see the world as more tidy, simple, and predictable and coherent than it really is. I think that's really an important thing to appreciate and understand. One of the pieces of the book that was kind of stunning to me is that he points out that our System 2 doesn't get engaged unless we force it. And we don't realize how important some of the things that live there are, and one of them being probabilities. So to kind of get the reader's attention about probability, he points out that obviously when a child is born, roughly 50% coin flip, male, female. So that Hitler, Chairman Mao, and Stalin were born male is a 1 in 8 chance. If you don't think probability has a big impact on history, just run that experiment. You know that all of those people lived in a time when the difference between being male and female would have dramatically changed the outcome of what they did in their lives. So we are as we are as a result of a whole bunch of kind of amazing probability things that we don't assess very well. And he offers some really interesting insights about that process. So I will immerse your hands in cold water for a minute. Then dip both in one hand in cold water and one hand in hot water. Then immerse both in a middle bowl. You'll experience the same temperature as heat on one hand and as cold on the other. It's delightful discussion about anchoring and relativism that we run all the time and don't recognize it. Leads me to, we learned in the senior design course and the sophomore design course that kind of was the underpinnings of the first competition at MIT. Occasionally you'd encounter a very eloquent or a very theoretically oriented or a very artistically inclined student, especially back when sketching was more important. Now, kids that are really good at rendering on the screen can have a really powerful influence because of that skill. If they happen to be not very well calibrated about what really happens in nature, they can have a disastrous impact on a team. So the folks that you really want to try to find are the ones that render well in whatever form and have good connection to reality in what they're rendering. Because a pretty picture is very persuasive and it can lead the whole team down a very bad path. It takes a long time to get far enough to turn around and come back. So one of the things you can help them do is run good mental movies so that they can get a better shot at it. So my closing comment about, I suggested this book too late for Autodesk to get enough copies for everybody here. They got all they could get, and those will be distributed to a bunch of you by some magical random process before you leave. And a lot of you will get them. Read them as a thought process for helping you think about what you're doing. But the other thing I think is really important is during this rather intense couple of days, I've gotten 2 messages from former students. I have been lucky enough to have a whole bunch of amazing mentors in the form of master's and doctoral students. Mentorship goes all directions. These guys are amazing mentors. I get a chance to use them as often as I can. I believe it's a good policy to find a new mentor every year and find at least one person that you can mentor every year, because I think that's a kind of sharing that creates growth and is expansive and makes life even more interesting and wonderful. So I thank you very much for what you do. If you run those quotes that you heard through your head, you can have appreciation for the fact that when you read what students have said about you guys in the WFFA nomination citations or nominations, you can't do that without getting a tear in your eye occasionally, because you're having a very profound impact. And last night at the dinner, one of the students that had been mentored by an outstanding member from 842, Freddie, was in this year's list of 100 most influential people on the planet, and she's very young. So you're having a really big impact. I know it gets tiring every once in a while, and that's another thing that Kahneman can give you some insight about. The difference between the thinking, the experiencing self, and the remembering self. You're building a very powerful remembering self. And as I said yesterday, I hope the remembering self wins as the one that helps your health, because I'm tired right now. My experiencing self is a little ragged around the edges. I haven't had enough sleep in the last few days, but I think next week that'll all feel really nice, and I'm sure that's going to be true for you guys too. So thanks for coming.
Thanks very much, Woody. Just a couple of data snippets that I want to leave you with before we're finished. We've been collecting some data in Canada after our events, and this extrapolates, I'm sure, across all FIRST community. 90% of the students we talk to say they have increased self-confidence because of FIRST. 99% of the students we surveyed would recommend FIRST to a friend, and 92% of the students said that FIRST has affected their career choice for the future, which is absolutely amazing. You're making an absolutely positive difference in kids. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here. I'd like to thank the stage guests for being here today and for speaking, and I wish you all the best today, and have a great day.